We're good. I love monkeys. I actually have several monkeys here in my studio. Um, they remind me about who I am. Welcome to our Saturday live stream. Um, I see there's a couple of comments already. Maybe we should just start like right out with the commentary. Audio actor is asking this query in advance since I may be in and out. I have an idea about using samples to create a plug and play drum kit in Soundpaint. Do you guys have plans for SMTH? I don't know what SMTH is, so maybe we can talk about that. And hi everybody, it's so cool to see people from around the world. Belgium, Newfoundland, that is so beautiful. And a fellow Dan, hej Lars, hvordan går det? Som du måske kan høre på min danske, er det en lille smule gebrokken stadig. Cool, where should we start? This has been an interesting week for us. As you guys know, we're deep in developments of Soundpaint 4.0. And maybe we should start, let me start somewhere entirely different. I actually have something I want to show you guys. This is just something I've been working on. It's a little film sculpture, if you will. Check this out.
Hi there, and welcome to Soundpaint 4.0, which is a free update for the Soundpaint platform. And at the heart of it is a brand new technology that we've developed called CAF. CAF stands for Capture Analog Filter, but it's really also an homage to all of us that are caffeinated constantly and with a particular focus on coffee. I like to use the coffee analogy to describe vintage synthesizers. I can have the same handful of coffee beans, but depending on how I brew and filter those beans, I can get completely different tasting cups of coffees. And I like to use that analogy about vintage synthesizers. We're pouring the sound through its filter, the filter being the heart, the sonic soul of the synthesizer. So with CAF, we can now capture the essence of any vintage synthesizer that we desire. So it could be a CS80, it could be a Jupiter 8, it could be a Juno 60, it could be a MS-10 or MS-20, it could be an ARP 2600, a Prophet, it doesn't matter. We have the ability to capture that soul and get inside of Soundpaint. Now, once we have it in Soundpaint, this is where the magic begins. Analog warmth. The sound of two CS80s just sweetly dancing together. Like, how beautiful is that? But in Soundpaint, I can make it even fatter. It's actually an idea we got from the CS80 itself, where you can shoot sine waves in parallel with the normal oscillators. We can play them in octaves. We can also play with the pitch of the sine waves. Or experiment with micropitch. The free version of Soundpaint comes with two core filter models. The perhaps most influential filter of all time, the infamous ladder filter, with its warm, vintage, fuzzy kind of sound. But to pair it perfectly, like a perfect dinner with a fully matching wine, we also offer the gorgeous SIM filter for free, that fat, expensive, dreamy kind of sound. The free mood filter with its 70s warmth, and the OBHM filters comes for free in Soundpaint. These will be supplemented by other synthesizers, for example, the MS-10, the Juno, the Jupiter 8, the 101. We got models for the CS80, the ARP 2600, and so forth coming very soon. Here's the free mood filter, but applied to 2 Juno 60s. I know, I'm freaking spoiled. And this is our free OBHM filter applied to 4 different Jupiter 8s. Isn't it gorgeous? All that sizzling noise up there. We also built all these beautiful filter presets here so you can quickly try different filter models on your program. Explore new colors. And we can just fool around with all of them. And of course, you can also save your own presets. Per voice filter. When we look inside of a true vintage synthesizer, we'll notice that it's neatly organized in all these different wires and components. What we're really seeing is diversity of sound. You see, on old vintage synths, every time you hit a key, a unique filter gets assigned to it. And that's exactly what we've captured with CAF. Are you caffeinated yet?
Are we caffeinated yet? Or it looks like on the chat, like some of you guys might be drinking wine. I used to love drinking wine. Whole studio is up in wine country here in California, but not so much anymore. I need to get back into wine, but for now it's coffee. You know, it's in a way it's weird and beautiful to show this kind of stuff on a live stream in terms of what we're working on. I'm actually I'm curious about you guys, what you think about this. Like almost every week, show you a little more about what actually goes on behind the lines in terms of how we're trying to improve the products and everything going on in terms of actually building these things, programming, user interfaces, graphics, instruments. Let me just quickly browse through the chat for a second here. Someone needs more coffee. I agree. Speaking of wine, wow. Chris says we're all living for sound, don't we? I agree, Chris. Chris, I'm curious. I think I asked it last week, but this is a recurring question in my mind. Would you rather live in a world where there's no music or in a world where there's no sounds of nature? JP says, I've been an 8D on Soundpaint loyalist for years now. I'm blind vision, writing slowly and steadily. I'm sorry to hear that. How can I connect with you guys in terms of chat about accessibility? Well, we can talk about it here, and you can certainly reach out as well. It's something we want to work more on. As you may know, in Soundpaint, forgive me just changing views here. We have built in certain options, but we can certainly do more, and we should. In terms of accessibility, it's something we do discuss on the team. We have a few things that are built into the user interface that allows us to do certain things. I'm sure this is not the solution for everyone, but for example, we can change the font size here in the UI. For those of us who are aging, we can read the fonts a little more clearly here. I use this all the time, just so you can have sort of a minimalist or maximalist kind of approach. But certainly reach out to us. We can leave our emails here as well, so you can reach out and talk to us about it. It's important. And a lot of it has to do with text and how text can be read. And you'll see here when I hover over all these different things that everything actually has names to it. So that should help with accessibility too, even for people that are legally blind. Let's see, Lars, I'm still on the free, embarrassing, yes, but okay, after massive stroke, the funds are not unlimited. I'm sorry, Lars. it's a free engine, man. You know, download the freebies. It's really fun to make your own instruments as well. Speaking of that, let me just play you guys something I've been working on. This is for those of you guys who are synthesizer lovers. This is our new ultra deep sampled Model D, also known as the Mini Moog. Now, I think for a lot of synth fans, at least myself, the Model D is probably the greatest synth ever made. If my desert island kind of synth, Art 2600 as well. What's interesting about having in Soundpaint is that I can play it polyphonically. So this is essentially 4 Mini Moogs being able to play it polyphonically all together. But in this case here, I think I threw on CS80. We just got our new CS80 filters in. As you know, we are also deep sampling a CS80 as well. But anyway, let's talk more play. Isn't that just the prettiest thing? Like monophonic synthesizers played in polyphony. I just think it's so... Like, I really do think it's one of the greatest synthesizers. I had a beautiful conversation the other day. We were working on this thing called Coffee Time, where I just make coffee for people and bring them by the studio. And we had a conversation about the Model D and the early days of synthesizers. Like, what is it about these early day synths that makes them so so beautiful? Like, how come it's like the Mini Moog is truly like the first sort of mainstream synthesizer outside the modular realm, and for all I know, it's a Stradivarius. We just don't know it yet, and that is magical. It's almost too much to play it in polyphony. Yeah, I can turn it up. Let me try here a little bit. Let's see if this is better. Tell me when you find the sweet spot between my voice and voice should probably be a bit hotter. Is this better? I mean, those basses down there. There are days where I'm actually just sitting and listening to oscillators by themselves as if they're music. Just there's so much life in the sound. You don't get this out of digitals. Just reading a little bit here in the chat. You guys are wonderful. Right, so many good things. And JP, by the way, by no means you should speak freely here. We really want to make this engine available for everyone, and accessibility is important as well. On that, you just wrote a keyboard shortcut. A similar could be dragging and trying to figure it, but so custom colors. JP, why don't you just write me at trolls@soundpaint.com and write down your thoughts. I'd be very curious to go through them and see what we can learn from you. Lars says, I had the Model D, also the Oberheim's flagship, even the Matrix 12 and the Jupiter 8. Oh man, I mean, all those are great, right? Each their way. Lars, we actually we just sent out a newsletter in promotion for the Moog Foundation. They're putting out the Matrix 12 for a raffle, one of the original ones. Actually, the one that belonged to Curtis. You may know he invented the Curtis filter. His particular unit is out for a raffle with the Moog Foundation. It's something we're supporting. We have a project we're doing with the foundation as well, and it's beautiful. All these old synthesizers are beautiful. I mean, Oberheim's, like, speaking of Oberheim, so right now I play with the Model D here on a CS80 filter, but we can switch it and try it on an Oberheim as well. So this is the Model D, 4 Model Ds, monophonic synthesizers running through Oberheim filters. Every voice gets its own filter assigned. You hear how it's different? A little more of like, the Oberheim for me has like a, I'm still trying to find out the right term, but for me it has an expensive sound. So Jazz Dude is asking Soundpaint 4 release when? And I realized, like, I'm just sitting here and showing you a bunch of stuff that you still don't have. It's come out in March. When in March? Mid-March, we're thinking right now? Something like that? Let me just try this on the looper. If you hear me repeat anything, it's because I have this hardware looper over here. You can't really see, let me see here. Down here, there's a hardware looper. So when you hear things repeat, it's coming from the looper. See here, trying to get the balances right. Thank you, Chris, man. I love painting with sounds. It's sort of all that I know how to do. You know, incompetent in all other matters of life. But this sound paint thing, you know, it's weird dedicating, you know, I never thought I was gonna be making instruments. It's not like there was a degree for that or anything. It just sort of fell in my lap. Out of necessity, really. My like the way I got into the instruments, just I used to be a composer before I started decomposing, and I made all these instruments for myself, and then eventually put them on the market, and that was like, well, okay. And then I've just been so lucky to meet so many people in the industry, and a lot of my heroes as well, including Dave Smith, who I think about every day, who created this beautiful unit here. Profit. Yeah, I think about all the people that I've helped. I've been on a weird like tangent lately where I just started reaching out to all the people that really helped me in my life and just thanking each of them. I think it's important. I really feel, I mean, how could I not feel blessed? It's just I'm making shit you can't even see for a living, you know? Sounds expensive, like luxury turbocharged cars. You just don't feel but hear as well. Mark, you're right. Like that what is that expensive sound, you know? Speaking of that, let's here's an expensive synthesizer. Let's just build something from scratch actually. Let's go back to you guys tell me which synth do you want? Like, let's be extravagant. Do you want a CS80? Or do you want more Model D? Do you want a Juno or a Jupiter? Whoever writes first, we pick that one. Don't be fooled, folks. Troels is a mega accomplished as a composer. That is a mega statement as well. I don't know, man. I don't know. This is my personal take on it. I was very fortunate to, I'm mainly in video games, to score the games I wanted. And then this is my personal realization. I just came to a realization that it's sort of like, well, then it's the next score and the next one, and it's hard. Like a lot of my best friends are real composers, and it's a different life, you know. You really, you're only as good as your last thing, and you constantly gotta keep up, and especially right now. It really requires mental fortitude to be in it. And granted, so does making sounds and technologies. I have to say well, I'm backtracking a little bit on what I'm saying, because like creating technology is actually the hardest thing I've ever done. Like I really, I sort of jokingly say, like, I wish every other developer would just make their own engine. It's the most humbling thing in the world. It doesn't look like it. It looks so simple, right? But it's years and years of discussions. Okay, so anyway, okay, Jeff was the first. You mentioned Juno. We'll play the other ones as well. Let's start with the Juno. Let's stop the loop here and get into it. You'll notice I have two versions here. One that says PCM, so we're going to be playing with the PCM version. And let's just try to load a couple of sounds. So this is in the raw state before any filters. This is one thing I love about Soundpaint, and I think it's starting to pay off, this idea about having all instruments live in the same environment. It's really also born out of the Prophet X hardware synth we did with Dave. This idea about having access to everything, like he spoke a lot about it too. It's nice. The C1 here refers to the chorus function on the Jupiter. Take them here, spread them a little bit in stereo. I mean, that's always nice. Now, we're extravagantly lucky. So we can choose filters in this one here. Jeff, what kind of filter do you want to try? Do you want a Mood, MS-10, Oberheim, Juno, Jupiter, 101, or CS80? You choose. Okay, Oberheim it is. You want that expensive sound. I'm just gonna switch my voice off. Let me try to mess a little bit around now that we have it loaded here. Now remember that you see this icon right here, that we can actually assign unique filters to each individual part. So if you really want to be extravagant, you go like, oh, I want an Oberheim on one, and I want a CS80 on the other one, and I want like a Juno on the third one. And each of those are per voice. So it's really extravagant. This is truly like having 4 Juno 60s loaded. And we can try to mess around a little more with the features here. For example, we have this warmth down here. Check this out. This is shooting sine waves in parallel with the sounds as well. It's a CS80 feature. If it's not warm enough, I mean, that's too almost subwoofy, but yeah, sine waves, they're fun. I'm getting it's burning a little bit here. Too hot, just too damn hot. Another fellow Dane, hi Kenneth. Lars, OMG, the sound of velvet. Yeah, it's cool. It's cool. We're having fun. In this like sonic, hard to hear. Marissa, you had a hard time hearing what I just did? Need like more volume or something? This is actually a better example. Let me just load 2 oscillators here, both with chorus on them. Maybe turn it up a notch. I see. Let's try here. 2 seconds. Is that better? Right? So that's Oberharmonia Juno right there. Sometimes it's hard to get the looper to sync. But yeah, that's just a little bit about what we can do. By the way, I love this. Speaking of the disco kit, Lars is asking. Let me just hear 2 seconds. Too many things going on here. Who's doing our website animations? So the website animations, we got this last week as well. It's done by some dear friends of ours who has an advertising company. They do ads for Apple and others. They're really good. The animations took many months to create. And we're using a variety of in-house tools, actually. All the textures, if you really want to look at it, are procedural. So they're not coming from real life. They're procedurally generated textures. Crazy times, yeah. Yeah, I love those animations. They're all my ideas, just trying to... You know, it's weird. It's weird for what we do. Because, like, how do you visualize something you can't see? And try to encompass all of that in like one picture, you know, all guitars or all synthesizers, whatever. Yeah. Speaking of disco, I've just loaded this kit here. I love this kit here. This is a new disco kit. Maybe it's actually easier if I just play the damn groove through the ARP instead. Let's make a clean groove here instead. That should be fairly disco. A little too much. Still too much. I like my disco a little bit slower. It's hardly disco, but let's just see whatever this turns into. Or we can just go like straight Top Gun. I remember the first time I heard this sound, like this sound here. For those of you guys who are into FM synthesis, it is amazing how much you can generate out of FM, from bells to drums to whatever. So where were we? I'm just reading on the chat here. I'd started one bar before making the kick. I agree. Like if it was too disco, it definitely should be that way. You guys talking about master degrees. I actually miss academia. I used to be a pretentious PhD scholar when I came to the US. Not so much anymore, but I'm starting to miss it. More of the sort of not academia for its own thing. I've always been more in the sort of applied way of thinking about academia. And in a weird way, actually, with Soundpaint, I've often talked to our beautiful team about this, but it feels like a PhD having created this engine and everything going in it. And obviously, it's not just me. There's a whole team of great, brilliant minds, much brighter than me, helping to create this. These filters alone here took quite a while to figure out. How do you build something which for me is like, I love what we have here, and it's really like, this is how I would want it. Not too complicated, but give me everything I need at the same time. Like striking that balance between it. It's hard. It's really hard. Forgive me, I'm back to the Model D here. Just check a couple of the basses. This is Jimmy who sampled it, who's a wonderful bass player in real life. Someone is mentioning it's a bit of a relief to be here and listen to you and take a moment to stop perceiving the craziness in the world today. Let's talk about the craziness of the world. Michael, what's crazy about it? I mean, I don't disagree at all. It is crazy, but I'm curious to hear what craziness are you feeling? Also, check this out while the chat builds up. We have all these filter presets. So I have two Model Ds loaded here, but I'm going to run through just a couple of the presets. Try to check this out. This is in real time. So much fun to just have some samples loaded and then try these different sort of filter colors. We're still playing with the same pads. It's just applying these different kind of presets. We also got Aftertouch, and it's actually polyphonic. It's the first part of our long venture into the world of MPE. Just So the harder I play on the key here, I can get everything to sort of flutter or highlight LFOs through Aftertouch. And because everything is per voice, I know this is synth geek stuff, but each of these LFO aftertouch things are running discreetly. Billy, you're asking a very important question. Is there a Prophet 5? There is. In fact, I recorded Dave's own Prophet 5, which was the last one ever made. And every single preset on it, all the oscillators. So that's coming. And we're doing the Prophet X as well, which in a way just is so perfect for Soundpaint because they share on some levels similar ideas. So yeah, we'll have them all in there. I'm doing the Arp 2600, the CS80. Billy, let me just show you for this shameless promotion, but more importantly for me, just genuine excitement. This is a little bit of the CS80. It's also fun with CS80 because it's so big, but you can shoot more warmth into it if it wasn't enough. Is that not fat enough for you? So for me, and I said this last week, and I've been thinking about it, and I do not mean this in any arrogant way as well. There's so many amazing plugins and emulations out there. For me, the reason we are going so deep into these synthesizers and building all these filter models is because of what you're hearing right now. It's the life in the sound. That sort of boiling oscillator, you have to record that out of a real vintage unit. You just can't emulate it, in my opinion. Are you not entertained? Forgive me, I mean, this would be the most boring live stream ever, just having an oscillator just run. But for me, I can really just, it's life. This one is Extravagant. It's 4 CS80s, if that wasn't enough, that each have different filters on them. In this case, they have mood filters on them. And if you notice down here, it says filter velocity. We can do velocity-based per voice filters. So think of it as piano. Let me just turn my voice up for a second. Sertab, you're right. You know, it may be because I'm caffeinated all the time. I really just like speed, but for me, an engine is only as good as it's fast. And a lot of the big engines out there have gotten so convoluted and too big that they take too long to load. I can load about 400 populated instances of Soundpaint in about 10 seconds in my DAW. And that, for me, if I'm playing something here right now and it takes me more than maximum 5 seconds, I'm out of it. I've just lost it. So for me, speed is everything. And when we talk about a lot of the things in the engine, like it could be cool to have this and that, we always have to measure it against, like, you know, what's the price? Do we really need it? Or are we gonna get an engine that can do so much but is so deep with 99% of features that we never use? This is something that, let me see if I can turn my off for a second here. If you look at the synthesizer right now, this is Dave's architecture. There's not really any submenus. Everything is laid out right away, just like it is on my looper. And I think that's super, super important. This shortcut from a thought to how it actually comes off in the keys is everything. And I think that's why acoustic instruments are just always going to be ahead of the computer. Like, the computer is the past, and real physical instruments is the future. You can touch them. We can only do so much. Though I will say, with synthesizers here, I don't think I'm ever going to play a CS80 hardware version again. It's that deep in terms of like how much we got here. And it doesn't break down every 3-4 months. And also, like, speaking of engines, the vintage synthesizers have very heavy engines because they keep breaking down as well. But speed is everything. I think it's actually maybe the most important part of an engine. Like, you could argue, well, an engine is only as good as what comes out of it as well. True. But I mean, when you got 4 CS80s stacked. Like, for example, here, I'm just going to play the same chord over. If this was done with digital means or emulations, you could immediately hear it's like too stiff, but because it's so well sampled, every time I play the same note, it has a variation in it, and that's so beautiful. This is where the vintage really do stand out. Like, they are just as prone to imperfections as acoustic instruments, so you get that natural sort of round robin stuff. Lars says CS80 kept some studios warm during harsh winters. That is so true. I had it out here in my other place, and it I could turn everything else off. It completely heats the room. It's true. It's a great heat. I mean, how brilliant is that? Like synthesizer and room heater at the same time. Great. Yeah, you like that sound? Marissa, it's absolutely right. And part of doing this as well is to preserve the units. Like the problem with the CS80 is so detuned on here. See, every time I hit the key, new sound. So when Vangelis apparently did Blade Runner, he was combining the different presets. We can try to do the same here. We got 2 strings, and he definitely used the brass as well. See if we can get a little Chariots of Fire, maybe. And it's funny with the CS80. These are the original presets on it, just in case you guys haven't played one. It's not like they're lying around. I should mention as well that the components in it, to Marissa's point as well, the components in the CS80 are not available. They're not made anymore. So you have to take components from another CS80 or CS60 to get it to work. So we are looking at some form of preservation here. They probably won't be lasting that much longer, maybe 20, 30 years, and then we're about out, and the components degrade as well. So it's really a joy to be able to play it. But anyway, these are the presets. I mean, they're kind of cutesy in their own way. Also, love way back then, it actually has 4 buttons on it that just states funk. They had funk presets. I mean, that's a brand. The sweetest, cutest ones are the harpsichords. That's a preset, and to make a preset on the CS80, you had to do all these wires because they didn't have memory. One thing that's beautiful about the synths we've looked at today, for example, the Model D and the CS80, is that they're both completely analog all the way through. There's something fascinating and beautiful about that. Like what happens even when you make memory banks, but you have to create wires and circuits for that. I don't think a lot of people think this was the CS80. I need to start. Well, these sounds are super, super low. I can understand why you can't hear that. And the volume is actually at max. Let me boost up the compressor on these guys here. I mean, the way, just listen to the resonance of the way this sort of. Right, let me read a bit on the chat here. Mark talks about the ARP. I like the ARP too, Mark, but I've also been staring at it a little bit too long. Marissa and I and others had like conversations about how to improve the ARP. I think this is something I may want to get into in like future live streams where we talk about like how to evolve the engine with you guys as well. For me, the first thing I would like to see is to have per part ARP. So I can have 8 different ARPs running consecutively. I think we can tighten it up as well. It's a little bit like, it's fine, but it feels a little bit like, if you play on old ARPs, there's no delay. You immediately play and like sometimes there's a little bit of delay because it's syncing to the grid and to DAW sync and all that stuff. I think we can make it a little more like alive and bubbly. Always room for improvement. Guys, definitely need to turn the sound coming out. I hope that we did that. This should be better now, right? Subvits, you're asking about my interest is in drums and percussion. So let's talk drums and percussion. Let's get out of synth world for a second. Tell me what you want to see. Tell me what kind of drums and what kind of percussion you're into. I can take you anywhere you want, pretty much. Do you want like giant epic percussion? Do you want like a ensemble of 10 different drum kits? Do you want old school vintage drum machines? Do you want like new disco? You want like pop production kind of kits? Do you want acoustic kits? Here's a little bit from our upcoming Zeus drummer. This is a library in 8DO that we've converted. And just to give you a little bit of perspective. Hold on, let me finger drum a little bit for you to show you a couple of different kits here. And just trying all these different kind of colors in it, just super easy. You know, when we talk about drums, it's interesting for me because like often there's samples like, for example, let's just take something like a hi-hat. It's like, well, it can be closed, it can be open, you can use your foot on it. But a hi-hat is so much more. So try to notice here when I play, especially up here, these are traditional hi-hats. But up here, they gradually open up and they were played in consecutive order, so you actually get the natural hit before it. We have a variety of that. It's something we call flow note for our drum sampling. It's sort of legato for cymbals, if you will. Sounds crazy, but it is. I'm trying to look at the chat here. I didn't hear what kind of drums you wanted. Maybe you just wanted drums and percussion, in which case I'll just go on autopilot and just show you a variety of things. If you ask me, drum machines, we have the 808, we have the 909, we have the CR78, the three kings of Roland drum machines. But many years ago, a gentleman who has a company used to be called MFB, created this tiny little drum machine here, and I think it's the heir to the 808. Just check it out here. I'll just trigger the ARP. It is so sweet. So just reading our chat, Tao, you were mentioning, I hope your name is Tao, to Lars, find freedom in your limitations. And I think that is, immediately made me think, like the most important realization I've had is, look at all the great composers across time. What is the one thing they had in common? It's limitations. And it's ironic saying that, knowing that we're selling Soundpaint and trying to sell you as many instruments and all that in the world. Less is more. For those of you guys who cook, you'll know that there's a point where you can't add more ingredients to the food. It just becomes too much of a hodgepodge between different kind of things. Like this stringent approach. It goes in graphic design as well, which I love. Just too much stuff, you know? Too many words as well. I've been thinking lately, like I wanna try to be more exact and pinpointed in my deliverables, so I don't have to use as many words. Limitations is everything. Think about the great composers. Use a piano, violin, maybe some notation paper if they're advanced. That was it. I actually, let me try to do an exercise, because I actually thought I wanted to do this next time it becomes an 808 day and 909. We'll stay in percussion here. I'm going to load an 808, and then I'm going to try to tweak it to become more than just what you would imagine an 808 could be. So we have one right here. I mean, that clap sound is the best clap sound ever made. And this hi-hat is the best hi-hat ever made, if I had to choose from drum machines. The 808 is sacred, and there's a reason it's been rocking top 40s for the last 40 some years. Like, but let me take it right now. I'll just turn the mic off, and then we'll try to make something entirely different out of it. Remember, this is just an 808. I'm just gonna throw that in the looper. Or I could have done just this, just a simple preset. This will explain a different way, but this is just the 808 as well. For me, that's a full-on modern score right there. Doesn't need to be more than this. Okay, so Subvits, you said like you are into percussion, and it would be great, but I'm unfamiliar with that. World percussion specifically. I grew up with percussion. That's my. If I knew anything, it would be a little bit about percussion. So let's do that. Let's go into some world percussion. Now. Where do we begin? I mean, we can take the hang drum, but I'm sure you know of this one as well, but I just love it. It's my own one. First generation hang drum. And by the way, one thing about the hang drum, when you play it as a bass, that's the best bass note ever. Maybe try some Baroque. Also love this guy here. I found this guy online. He'd made, I thought it was unbelievable. He made an instrument out of wrenches. The great thing about wrenches is, like, unlike the hang drum you just heard, which easily gets detuned if you play too hard, you can play the Renchspiel as hard as you want. Wrenches have perfect pitch. If they're shaped to particular like note, they will never lose it. So this is the Renchspiel. Aren't those the prettiest wrenches you've ever heard? I think they are. Okay, Billy, you're saying the steel drum. I mean, I love steel drum as well. You know, it's interesting. There's a funny backstory, by the way. The guy who invented the hang drum used to make steel drums. He was, as the story was told to me, like the king of the Caribbean. Whoever makes steel drums there is regarded very highly. He did that for, I think it was like 25, 30 years. His name is Felix, and Sabina as well. And they eventually came out with the idea, because they've been building and playing steel drums for so long, that it could be interesting to maybe do a steel drum that's opposite, so from concave to convex, or is it the other way? I can never remember which one of those two words are which way. But essentially like a reverse steel drum. So let's try that actually. Let me just play a little bit with the steel drum and then switch to the hang drum afterwards. And we'll see the sort of cousin-like relationship between them. And perhaps even like evolution as well. One thing about the hang drum, it's so delicate. The metal on the hang drum, the steel drum has a little more of a steely sound. The hang drum or the alien drum is an alloy between steel and brass. It's very thin. You can't play it with rings. It actually got detuned when we sampled it, so I had to send it back to be sort of I don't know what's called. I want to say rebanked, but that's not the right word. It's like a hammer you use both on the hang drum and the steel drums to tune them. Yeah, Billy, I like it too. I like the way the percussion instruments speak together. And, also a lot of Nicolas Bras's instruments, our custom instrument maker from France. He's working on some new ones, including a giant pan flute that has I think the deepest note is over 8 feet. And we were talking about how to figure out how to play that. And it came down to pretty much needing to use air compressors, but then there are noises that they have to be in somewhere else. It's a crazy story. Yeah, but I like it too. Lots of tonal percussion and lots of ample distractions as well. One thing I love that he made was this guy here. It's the citharet, or the zither, if you will. For me, just a gorgeous instrument. So I'm a little bit curious. I'm reading in the chat. I can understand that there will never be a manifestation that can hold a candle to the unmanifest of the mind. Jeff says he likes the brass core. Oh yeah, the brass core. You're right. Let's try the brass core as well. Yeah, this one here. Also because it has such a, there's so much natural occurring noise. I don't mean noise as in bad, but good kind of noise you can just hear as a human there. Subvets, you're back with more percussion requests. The djembe ensemble congas, bata, kude, timbal drums. Yeah, we got some of those coming. I wouldn't say they are right in the current catalog. We recorded a bata kude ensemble with 33 different players. They have a lot of them. Can you morph? Antelopic is asking, can you morph blend the releases only of one instrument into the nut? So you're talking if we can morph release triggers. I don't even know if that's possible. I'm actually not sure. Let's see here if that's what you mean. So we only have release triggers. I'm not sure I'm getting a lot of morph from that. This may be one of those edge cases that we cannot yet accommodate. Morphing of release triggers. Yep, let's take it all the way. Didn't realize until I saw it played that it's plucked with both hands. You know, Jeff, it's interesting when we think about how to play instruments. These last couple of weeks, we've been playing with guitars. We've been releasing guitars as well. And one thing I keep coming back to is to learn to not play the instrument as a piano, but learn to play it as the instrument it is. You'll notice when I play here, I don't know anything about music theory, so forgive me. But you'll notice when I play that I will change my style of playing. If I'm playing percussively, I'll do more like this. If I'm playing guitars, for example, let me just load one right now. You'll notice that I'm playing more like strum-like, but I'm not playing it like that because that would never happen on a guitar. So I think we have to be careful. It's so easy because we're on a piano, so we'll play it like a piano, but we got to be careful not always playing it like a piano, but actually try to learn the different styles of instruments. So for example, the dobro here. Like if I played this like a piano, sounds a little like a piano. But if I played more like a if I strum it, so you never hear me play like that's piano, but if I go absolutely love this groove here. This is using the dobro strummer. Again, things we just can't do on a keyboard like strumming. And then the 522 drum machine. And then combine the two. I think that's so sweet. So dobro articulations, we could talk a little bit about that. So with the dobro, let's take it from the top actually. So for all these guitar libraries we've been releasing the last couple of weeks, we've got more coming. They come with two different, I feel sometimes I just go into like, sample mode. Forgive me about that. This is a form of madness, if you will. In order to record strums on a computer, you have to go freaking deep. So in this case here, for all these libraries, we have 13 different chords in every single key per chord and 13 different rhythms as well. And you combine that with time stretching and offset inside of Soundpaint, you can do a lot. But this is one of those things, like I just talked about, like you can't play your way out of strumming. It's one of the hardest things to recreate in the computer. I don't personally like MIDI strummers. They just sound like MIDI, in which case I'd rather use a real guitar, or I can sample it like it is. So this is a good example actually. With this one here, I like the way it's going, but I would actually like to have it a little more offbeat. Right now it goes like diki diki diki, but I want it diki daka diki dak. So I'll go into like the offset mode here. There we go. Now we have all these different chords. Oh, sorry, you're right, Marissa. Oh, let me turn the UI back here. Thanks for the note. So all the different chords here. Sorry, all the different rhythms. You know, just grinding human beings. Strumming is interesting, like even theoretically speaking. If you listen really careful, every time he comes up and down, sometimes you hit certain strings, sometimes you don't. And obviously you're coming from like lower strings to high and higher strings the other way around as well. Strumming is surprisingly difficult. One little feature we've added in the upcoming version of Soundpaint as well is under key switches. We actually always had this, but it was never visible. Is this icon here. You can either right click in the UI or you can click this icon here and you can move the key switches by doing that. It's a neat feature if you just want to move all your key switches. Sometimes we need to get them out of the way on the keyboard. We also got more exotic chords. You'll notice them down here as well. Again, I'm not overly theoretical, but for me at least, they cover all my needs. Are the strumming patterns the same across all the instant guitars? Yes, they are. They are. They're all symmetrical, recorded the same BPM, designed to be used together. Yeah, that's one of those things. It's really important to make the right decisions early on, sometimes when you make series of libraries as well. But that was just a bit of the strumming. There's over 6,000 different strums in it, so there's a lot. We also got these, like, if it's dobros, you have to do dobro slides. That twangy Americana. Yes. So check this out. This is our new time stretcher. This is in a way, I guess it's okay to talk about this on a live stream. When you develop things, it takes a long time sometimes, and we wanted to have a high resolution time stretcher that didn't break the computer. So that was about a year of development. Go faster. Go slower. Do you hear how much of like the sonic information is like kept in there? We can go way slow. I often like to use time stretching because I feel I'm learning about the sound, like I'm going like deeper into it. I love what's going on at the very end of it. If you listen, like that finger noise, just that. Let's try to slow that down, speed that down. And we can throw like, just because we can, right? We can throw like a CS80 filter on it. That's another week. For example, this week in our development, like we were talking about like We have the character of the CS80, but we want it really, really smooth on the filter side. So hear how smooth that filter is? And with this one here, we have this awesome granular reverb. So it's a reverb that turns into fragments, and we can go. Okay, let's add the shimmer instead on Antelopic's request. Like, who would have thought that was a dobro sliding finger? I hear a little bit of a click. That's to be expected because we chopped into the sample, but we have our envelopes here. And you'll notice here this icon in the filter as well. This equals our ADSR values out here in terms of controlling the ramps of the sound, but you can do it in the filter as well. They're identical. Dobro slides. We can slide down. We can slide up. Ooh, especially that one on the last part. And let's do that. Sorry, forgive me. Same trick again. Thank you, Antelopic. Soundpaint seems infinitely appealing. Well, as long as it's not Soundpaint feeling infinitely appalling, we're good. We're good. You know, creating something to and for yourself and seeing other people enjoy it too is just the greatest thing. I really Heisenberg on LSD. That's nice. Yeah, it's definitely got that Breaking Bad kind of vibe, but really breaking down bad. I also find it's funny with sounds. There's so much beauty in them sometimes if we explore. And I feel, for me with Soundpaint, it's a little bit like a sonic microscope. Sometimes, like, it's like, oh, there's a little bit of finger movement on that dobro. Like, let's make that into something. I feel like the more I open my ears, the more I listen, the less I talk. I'm sitting with the Arp 2600 right now. It's the same thing. I'm just trying to like listen to the unit. What are you trying to tell me, unit? Let me listen. Almost in a diplomatic sense. Be humble to who I'm talking to. 4 spreads after release, new comments. Liking live in 3, 2, 1. Liking live in 3, 2, 1. That's why I love Soundpaint. The truth of a sound when you can go weird. Yeah, it's a fine balance between to go weird. I often find myself when I try synthesizers or plugins that there's so many shit patches too. There's like, well, I wouldn't use that in music. So for me, it's a careful balance between being like experimental, borderlining the avant-garde at times, but also just to have something just straight up playable. Speaking of that, for example, this is the Dobro, and this feature for me is one of those that just works most of the time in terms of bringing out musicality in the sound. Our color feature up here. So this is taking the Dobro, but going 12 tones up in color. See what I mean? Like every time we try different colors, it just works. It's still musical and it's experimental as well. But how to strike that balance? And then sometimes, to your point as well, we have to just go into the infinity as well and try new things. Checking on the chat here. Hey DeSolo, it's nice to meet you. I recall you on YouTube comments as well. I've really enjoyed your instant guitar series and contact, but what I liked about those guitars is using the cat filters. Yeah, Charlie, you're right. Like it's a, the engine is improving. How much do we really need? In a way, we talk about it often on the team internally. Like we keep developing new features, and working with you guys and being inspired. But we also have to remember just to make music sometimes, and not get too caught up in all these things. But our libraries are organized in a similar way. You have all the playable stuff normally on the key switches, solo strummers, and then we have our sound labs here where we're experimenting. I keep coming back to our 1928 piano. Maybe it's because my own, but I just think that it works with everything. Piano and dobro, who would have known? So this one is interesting. I realized I played the wrong chord, or wrong. Is there any wrong? But like, stay with it. It's a jazz thing. Like you're like, no, that was a conscious decision, and find the beauty in it. Marco is saying, I mean, if you play a piano like this, it could be sampled rubber, like rubber bands, really. Yeah, I think we did something similar. Actually, made me think about something. Let me see here. Rubber. Do we have any rubber bands? So I remember this one. I did this on the DX7 here. It's not rubber. It just reminded me about rubber. This is what rubber bands would sound like on a DX7. Also, the DX7 for me is often looked upon as like being this sort of cold synthesizer. Nothing cold about that. It also happens to be one of the most noisy synthesizers. Oh man, have I ever heard of Pat Metheny? I love Pat Metheny. Let's try to do a Pat Metheny experiment. Actually, we were playing with the guitars before. Obviously, that's a good place to start. Let's try to. I want to make sort of a Pat Metheny kind of fast, kind of strum deal. Let's look through a couple of strums with an acoustic guitar here. We need like a little more. Oh, hold on. I get so easily distracted, right? Like the 1975 for me, this is very Pat Metheny. Oh my God! Yes, if you hear Pat Metheny in my shit, like you're absolutely right. I'm all about that, really. Um, I what do you guys feel like? For me, like I used to listen to Pat Metheny all the time, and I still do occasionally. But like I find like one's musical preferences changes over time. Is the same for you guys? Are you still listening to the same shit you were when you were 17? Well, forgive me, maybe some of you guys are 17. But for me, I find myself keep like drifting around. But hold on, I want to go back to in my Jackson Pollock like state here. I want to still see if I can do that Pat Metheny thing. Let me take the mandolin actually. This one is not out yet, but it's coming soon because I've used this for Pat Metheny stuff before. I'm just going to try to find the right rhythms. I'm just trying to fool around with the pitch here. Ooh, a little too much shit going on. Was that Metheny enough for you? And Dave, we do see you. Like, and what comment did you make that we skipped? I want to make. Let's find out what Dave said. What did Dave say? Suggestion: make a page very visual where you can customize displays with 4 to 6 controls. This is not just an aesthetic thing, but it helps a lot when playing live. I use a lot of these. Okay, so Dave, if I understand you correctly, you're talking about macros. You want to be able to assign a bunch of shit and then just have a couple of macros you can control it on. Is that what you're saying? Let's see if that was the case. Also, this one, this sound I was playing here, by the way, this is 10 synthesizers recorded in a symphonic hall, like for reals. If you just listen, let me just strip all the effects. Just listen to the sound of 10 oscillators in a big modern hall with a reverb tail of, it's like 3.2 seconds. It's all the air moving in the hall. Isn't that gorgeous? You add a little bit of effects to it and it just becomes heavenly butter. It's almost like an organ. Okay, Dave, so you are talking about the macros. Yeah, this is something we are discussing, and you're not the first one to make this request in terms of being able to, say, make a bunch of modulations and then assign them all to macros so you can easily control them. I get it. We can do that in Soundpaint right now, but I understand the sort of simplicity of it that if I understand you correctly, that you would prefer to just have a couple of macros where everything was assigned to. I'm sure you know this already, but you can right-click on anything inside of Soundpaint, and let me see if I have. Can you see it over here? If I move back here, let me just try to assign. Let me see if I go here. It should be easier. You can assign everything to your controller. So if you want to have a macro that does everything, just assign that to whatever you want on the keyboard. Everything is assignable inside of Soundpaint. Where were we? Yeah, I do this synth tone here is I absolutely love it. And this is interesting as well. We talked about experiments earlier on. When I got the idea about like putting 10 synths in a hall, I thought it was the best idea ever, and I'm so glad we did. But it's something that the community was like, do we really need that? And I know I did, but I just say that because sometimes it's like, it's interesting to sometimes venture into the forest, and sometimes as well like to stay out of the forest as well. But I think we all have to go into realms we haven't been to before, especially if it's our own calling. And not think too much about like the popularity contests of the real world. Billy says, I'm ready for Soundpaint to develop a neural interface so we can just figure out what sound I'm hearing in my head. That would be a huge time saver. So Billy, let's talk a little bit about it. My background is in technology predominantly. I've worked with music and AI about 20 years ago before it is the joy fest that it is today. Soundpaint is in many ways what you're trying to describe. I actually think at the ethos and the heart of everything we're doing, it is the idea about shortening from thought to creation. And I think we should talk more about that. How can we get there? Obviously, we're not at a neural level yet. But for me, I would love to see the UI get out of the way. Like when I play a real instrument, like a real acoustic instrument, there's no boot time, load time. There's no having to stare at a screen. Can you imagine a piano with a screen? How just like, no, this is just a bad idea. It's so perfect the way it is. So Soundpaint is at least my attempt to create something that is neural in the sense that we can get from the shortest way. And it's in everything. For example, Why do I need to open up another utility to download my shit? Why do I need to enter serial codes? So that's why we built the downloader into Soundpaint as well. Ooh, let's see here. So you can just download everything right away. So the second you purchase it, it just shows up here. It's one click. If you want to download all of it, just one click as well. If you want all your updates, whatever, just one click as well. That's the way it's. So it's not even just at a musical level. I find it's also and it has that thought has to go through the entire thought process. Like, for example, what is the fastest way I can assign these things to my controller? Right click, choose your option, wiggle controller, done. What's the fastest way I can like do my arpeggiations? Well, hold your mouse button down here and just, you know, draw on the grid. What's the fastest way I can do the same with my EQ here? Hold down mouse button, draw on the grid. We have thousands of little decisions like that in the engine. What's the fastest way I can find my shit? Like, well, put a heart on it here. You guys may notice this is like not so often seen here, but you can actually heart your parts, heart your part here as well. That way you can search on the parts and always find the part that you like as well. So we have favorite options both for programs and for parts and blah, blah, blah. Back to the chat. David says, no problem. Soundpaint is still young and has evolved a lot. I follow you since the beginning and I'm sure much more is to come. Little by little, good and safe steps. Yeah. Yeah, Marissa and Eric can attest to this as well. I often, it's just like baby steps, you know. I showed you the time stretcher. That was a year of development. These filters here, it's been a year and a half to develop. And they're not even showing up because I'm in a different file format. It all takes time. It really does. And it's very humbling actually to create technology and also try to balance the feedback from the community with our own ambitions, and especially learning like how to sort one's ambitions. It's so easy to want all of it, but we don't want all of it. If Soundpaint could do everything, it would be the worst engine ever. So I think it's about like actually choosing what really matters, making it a simplistic way, and keep that neural thought in mind. Like, let's make sure we can get there in the fastest way. No load times, no boot times. Give me my shit right away. We're in an impatient age right now. Retention is 5 seconds, at least my own. Any plans for split polyphonic patches? For example, I have 4 instruments. If I play 4 different chords, they each play a separate note individual within a chord. And that would make DVC writing easier. That's a good one to solo. Is your name DeSolo? Do I pronounce it correctly? DeSolo? The solo. I'm in love with your ideas, and we are working on them in different ways. In Soundpaint right now, and this is not the answer you're looking for, but just to give you context, you can go up here. We have something called key range, where you can set the key range for each individual part. So if you want a bass to play in the bottom and another one in the top, you can do that. You can split them too. But I realize what you're saying is more than that. We'll get there. DVC for sure. We have to build DVC technologies, and we're working on next gen orchestral instruments, and we're very deep down the lanes of exploring different technologies as well. Some of it relates to that. A little bit of a vague answer for now. Billy says, Soundpaint is so unlike anything else I'm using. It's been phenomenal. It takes time to learn, but I can make sounds. You know, Billy, it's interesting. Tell me a little more about what took time to learn, because I think one of the blinding factors for us is like when you do 24/7, you can't really see what's up and down. So I'm very curious about what took, because for me it's like, oh my God, it's so simple, but dude, I've been working on this for 8 years, so of course it's simple. But tell me about what you felt were some of the learning curves in it, like what took a little bit of time to get you, because you're not the first one to say it, and I want to learn more about it. Like, what can we do to present it in a more cohesive way as well? Jim is saying, from above, love Soundpaint. I'm curious about the strumming aspects of the guitar. Says, why are the samples only recorded at 75 BPM? God damn it! Yeah, you didn't say God damn it, but won't there be artifacts speeding it up to say 100? So, what a great question. So Jim, let me take you down the dark road of sampling. Let me let's load the dobro here again. And let's load some strums. So it's about 6,000 strum samples. So imagine how much you would have to record to get there, for 13 different chords in every single key in 13 different rhythms with round robin as well. So it's a lot to do. Why did we do 75? This is a couple of years ago I did it. 75 to me struck me as the best chord tempo to work from. I'm getting a lot of material because we're playing a little bit slower. So what would happen if we beef it up to say 100 BPM? We'll go up like 25% here on the time stretcher. Tell me what you think. I can hear a little bit of artifacts. It's not bad, and in a mix, you wouldn't notice. Now, say, well, should we record at 100 BPM? Would that have been worth it? If you ask me, not really. Like, this is totally passable. Back to core. Down 75% here. So this one was a little iffy right here. And that happens with time stretching. Sometimes you get artifacts, and we can work around them as well. This is a PCM library, so you can take these samples actually out and use any time stretching you want them if you don't like this. But it just goes to show, man, like you're right. Like ideally, like we should have recorded multiple tempos and all that. It's just too much work. We got 6,000 different strum phrases in round robin, so you can repeat the same phrase. Without getting machine gun effect. Let's speed that one up. How deep does the rabbit hole go? Would you be willing to endure 6,000 more recordings to get it up to 100 BPM? Maybe. And if you feel that way, you should contact us, because then maybe we found someone who's even like deeper into it than us, and I would love that. Sampling is very... The biggest problem with sampling is actually having to record so much material. It's very easy to sort of like, oh my god, like I have to play every single key. How inspiring is that? Oh, I have to do that 13 different rhythms. Like at some point you lose the emotion in it, and the second we lose emotion in samples, we lose it in the instrument as well. I use the analogy of cooking with ingredients. If you have great ingredients when you cook, the likelihood of having a good meal is higher. But if we are uninspired in the process, if there's not love in the making, so to speak, like I think it impacts the music further up. Anyway, long ramble. Back to the chat. Let me see here. Big Brain, in regard to favoriting, assigning various projects and learn mistakes is another huge... Yeah, mistakes. What is mistakes? In a weird way, Soundpaint was born a little bit out of a mistake as well. I had to smoke way too much weed about 9 years ago, and that's how I got the idea for Soundpaint. So I ran in and wrote all my crazy thoughts down, and some of them were definitely out there, but it actually became what it is. I agree. I'm also a big fan of you guys' string libraries. I hope to hear more on the disco strings in the future. Yeah, you will hear more in disco strings. We're gonna build upon that in several ways, actually. Billy said it took me a while to realize how the matrix was working. It actually took me a bit to know. Right. And so it took a while to realize it was over here, and that makes sense. Maybe it's hidden too much. I get it. We have a matrix button here. So if you, anytime in the engine you do any kind of assignments, let's say I want to control the volume on my mod wheel here, you now have it over here recorded in the matrix as well. And in the matrix, we can adjust things as well. One feature I love about Soundpaint is that I can say like, hey, I only want this thing here modulated, this range of my filter, this range of my EQ. That's something I wish Kontakt had designed, because it's so important to be able to dial in, particularly when we work with filters. You don't just always want to skate like up and down. You want to like, you're caught up to be in a very tiny fragment, and within that it becomes expansive. Will we include mixing sliders? Yeah, you know, Marco, we had a meeting yesterday actually about microphones. It is clearly something that we are aware of. We have many libraries that offers many different mic positions, and it would be nice to have some more simplistic microphone controls. So it's a part of a larger overhaul of certain aspects of the engine we're working on. De Solo says, oh yeah, don't feel entirely obligated to achieve my ideas. I like throwing out ideas. That's good, man. That's what we're here for. We want to spar with you guys and hear your ideas. And I'm sometimes I'll be this set, like just like we talked about samples before with strings, like would it be worth doing 6,000 more phrase recordings to get the BPM up a little bit, or was it tolerable using the time stretch, you know? So I'll try to be the voice of reason in terms of like the insanity of working with samples. You mentioned strings, for example. I realized when we did disco strings that there's like, well, there's no library doing that. Everything is so classical and all that. We don't have that bubbly life in it. So completely different way of thinking about strings and different process of recording and all that stuff. I find as I get older that every time we do libraries the more humble I am when I go into the process, not thinking I know everything, the better results we get. And especially around emotion, like trying to keep the emotion going through the sessions. Dave says, nowadays the size of sound banks is no longer an issue. Why it's important is the difference is it allows you to interact dynamically, balance simplistic versus advanced features. Dave, you're speaking the truth, man. Size to some degree matters once we get over 10, 20 gigabytes. It tends for a lot of people tends to be sort of that's sort of the reason. That's also why we developed an integrated PCM. As you may know, we have two different file formats. We have our old in-house format called RTS that allows us to morph. But some of the libraries, especially the next gen stuff, are starting to look chunky, like plus 100 gigabytes. So we're working on different kind of compression formats that still has the same flexibility. But it's really, really hard when you do technology, because on one hand you want everything. It's like, well, I want to be able to morph. I want high resolution time stretching. I want per voice filters. Like that doesn't necessarily go together. For example, in our RTS format, we can morph, but we can't do the per voice filter thing here because that would, quadruple, more than quadruple. It would make it for every voice you play, you double up. It doesn't happen in PCM, so this is technical stuff. But it's just one really has to think it through at a deep architectural level, and then how does that spiral upwards to consumer level as well? I don't know if that made any sense, by the way. Jim says, I get it. Is there an easy way to time stretch certain tempos? Jim, we are working on it right now. I actually have a prototype time stretcher where you can type in the BPM and it'll adapt. When I originally designed Soundpaint, I didn't want, by deliberate attempts, I didn't want any automations. I didn't want things to just sync. For example, our offset over here, you would imagine it would be great to have a waveform so you can see what on earth you're doing. I grew up with a sampler that didn't have that, the ASR10. And I think there's something about using my ear that I like more than seeing the waveform. Now, that could sound like a lazy excuse by a developer. We are going to add BPM sync and we will add wave display to offset, but I want to have a specific mode that doesn't have that in Soundpaint. That's how I prefer to work, where I'm more at the mercy of my ear. I'm not distracted by visuals. Like, why do I need to look at a waveform? Why do I need to move sliders? Like, that's taking me out of the music. I find with the DAWs today, with a lot of heavy samplers, like there's just too much stuff, too much shit to confuse me and get me out of my groove, That's why I said we can learn from acoustic instruments, like we're right there with them. Anyway, should I play more or should we talk more? You guys tell me. I feel that was a long ramble. Yeah, Jim. It's all dilemmas, man. Trying to see the beauty at a development level and how that spiral upwards to consumer level, and the other way as well. Soundpaint is really built from the inside out, beginning with the beauty at low-level coding, optimization, something we don't talk. It's so boring in a way. Like what optimization is like. Well, it's really important. An engine in certain ways is only as fast as it can run. So we spend an enormous amount of time. We have a wonderful programmer who's a PhD, worked for IBM for many years, who specialized in optimization. Brilliant mind. Go deep down, heavy development discussions in terms of like what does it mean to have an optimized engine. Smoking weed is the reason I bothered with a symphony. Soundpaint saved me back. Well, I'm glad to hear I'm not alone on that one. Weed is interesting. I find it great for more simplistic tasks, but I also find it not so great for complexity and more like work-oriented tasks. And I also think like one should respect it a lot. There are days where I think when I look at the state of Los Angeles and all the young people that maybe legalization could have been done differently. That's totally outside our Soundpaint talk, but real life. Audio asks, when you guys sample, Billy, you said, is Shimmy going to make new videos explaining new filters? He is. He's actually coming next week to do it. You may notice, Billy, as well, that inside of Filter here, we have Synth advice. These are tutorials. So you can actually watch different kinds of tutorials straight from the engine. We're going to build more and more of that functionality, and so you can just watch. You don't have to go to YouTube, just use the engine. So if you want to learn about filters, sure, there's a section there about learning from it. And Shimmy is part of that. We did sound advice last season. This season is going to be synth advice. When you guys sample, do you have preferences for microphones, Neumann, AKG? Not really, man. So audio, let me. This is in the sample game. There's been different kind of periods. Used to be about like, it has to be recorded this hall, it has to be 24-bit, it has to be with this microphone. And I personally prefer Neumanns. That's just my own preference, but all of them are good. We've used AKGs, we have them in our disco strings. Royers are great, Neumanns are great. The cheaper knockoffs of Neumanns are great as well. It's not really, like the most important part, and this is what I'm trying to say, it doesn't matter about the microphone, it doesn't matter about the hall, it doesn't matter if it's an Abbey Road or Air or an old stone cathedral or the pyramids or an old bunker. What happens is what we record there, what emotions came through the recording. That's what matters. If you listen back to, look at old Michael Jackson recordings, look at the mics they used there. It wasn't that special, but the performance was there. The energy was there. The emotional expression was there. So the microphone is just it's really just and the hall as well. They're only as good as what's recorded in them, So I'm apprehensive about all the marketing in regards to these things. Like I think people should really ask like, what am I getting? What emotion? And other things like listen to the demos of a library. Like don't buy the marketing. It's all bullshit. Like listen to what it actually sounds like, Charlie, you give us calf, then tease part arps. You tease right? I'm sorry, Charlie. I'm not trying to tease. Actually, this is just childish. This is I'm like some kind of rich kid that got to make my own candy store and just run around and eat candy all day long. Something like that. Is there a plan to get MIDI drag? Yeah, I mean, yes, we have plans we want it all. We want, like, you're right, like, it would be great to have ARP features where we can drag MIDI in or drag it out and all that stuff. Yes, it's all going to happen at some point. Our problem is really how to prioritize. To offer perspective for all you guys' great ideas, and we do take note of them, by the way. And we have a Discord community where we really go deep into it. Right now, we are polishing our advanced sample editor. That's pretty important. we are having some amazing third-party developers come into it as well. So that's a great privilege. So that's one of the areas like you guys don't necessarily notice right now. You will when it's out. Talking about the time structure, the filters here, that's been significant development. You know, small things like integrating the downloader into the application, that took a little bit of time. It all takes time, so time, resources. Then we have to record new instruments on top of that as well. Oh man, let me show you guys something. I'll shut up for a second here. Let me see if I can find this guy. No, that didn't work. Oh yeah. So recorded a new duduk. We did 3 duduks. They were fine, but I went back and I'm gonna interview him next week as well and recorded a really, really great duduk player. His dad is one of the main duduk makers in the world. They have many, I think it's centuries of legacies in terms of creating duduks and media. Check this out. It's just a couple of them. Legato. Okay, we'll just jump freely between. So Jeff, you asked something on the chat that I love. How did disco strings impact Vivaldi strings? That is, it's almost like I told you to ask me that question. Love it. Vivaldi was disco for his time, and disco strings is Vivaldi in many ways. Same type of ornamentation, high energy levels. So we went back to the same room, same players. That was the exact tie between them. Like that was the party music of then. This is the party music of now. But with Vivaldi, it went really, really deep. Different kind of ensembles, of course. Everything. I wanted to have everything, all his writing tools, particularly the ornamentations that you can't do with traditional libraries. I wanted to have all of it in front of me, so I could try to be Vivaldi. You know, I say that in the most humble sense, of course not. But I want to have all these tools available to explore what this idea about like the modern Baroque could be. It's one giant tie between the two, and other libraries connected to it as well. It's all sort of growing to become a larger thing. Appreciate that question. Well, thank you. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, DeSolo. Thank you, all you guys, for your questions. Just going through the last chats here. Hi, Michelle. Audio, it doesn't matter at all, but I enjoy thinking about character from microphone choices. Yeah, you're right. And like even with the duduk I just played here, you can listen to the different mics here. Isn't it beautiful? A really, really good player. And we can play the duduk polyphonically as well. That one took a little while to figure out how to do true polyphonic legato. A lot of people talk true polyphonic legato, but you know, true polyphonic legato. Well, maybe this is a good note to leave it on. This duduk is not available yet, though it is done. Totally appreciate the chat today. You guys are wonderful. I feel I'm learning so much. And yeah, till next time, right? Saturday, I think it is. What else is there to say? Maybe I'll just jam it and play it out. The synth lead you tried a while ago, that said a lot. Which collection does that belong? I want it. Okay, let me just end on that note. I'll play with that one. It's coming from our 10 synths library. I actually have one of my favorites here. Let me see if I can find it. Not 2010. Here, yeah. It's under our Arpeggiator samples, and it's just pure joy. So yeah, thank you guys. I'm just gonna jam a little bit, and then this stream will end for today. Love you so much.